world around us. And I'm your host, Beatriz Caraballo. Today we're going to talk about mental health awareness, embracing mental health awareness. And we're going to celebrate it because we're going to take that stigma off of it. We're going to take the sadness away from it. And we're just going to educate you today and empower you. And we're going to take all that sadness away from it. So we're going to celebrate your life and my life and Dr. Clack's life and all of our lives today. Let me give you an overview of mental health and what it encompasses. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act. It also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. It's a lot. Mental health is important at every stage of life, from childhood and adolescence through adulthood. This is not a topic for just women.
Amen.
And that we have spoken about many times, and we're going to talk about that again.
Okay.
Today we have a special guest, our favorite guest, the one that educates and empowers. Dr. Angela Clack is a psychologist and licensed psychotherapist at Clack Associates. She has been working in the mental health field for more than 20 years. She has a Women's Empowerment Group International, empowering women to succeed through professional counseling, coaching, and consulting. Dr. Clack, welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
Yes, and we're gonna celebrate.
Yes, we are honoring.
We're gonna change that.
Absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
what good stuff do you have for us today?
So let me share the backstory first, because I want people to know why we're here, why I have on green.
Yes.
And
my green bow.
Yes. So, and we have green cupcakes. So if
Yes.
you were here, you would have a cupcake.
Yes.
But May is Mental Health Awareness Month, so it's commemorative of the whole month that's honoring, making events, having celebrations,
Right.
events like this that talk about mental health.
Right.
But for us, when I thought about this event, you and I talked, and I said, I want to do something for May.
Mm-hmm.
And my first thing was, I want to do a tea. I said, well, I was going to do a women's tea, and no sooner had I thought the idea, Beatrice had already had all of this worked out. And she just took over, and I love your energy.
You can't spark me up.
I mean, you were on it, and I appreciate that because I needed that. This
Yes.
is exactly what I was looking for when I wanted to have an event.
Well, we need a platform to educate because a lot of people are misguided. And men especially are misguided because they think that it's such a sad topic. Why should I share my sadness with anybody when I'm supposed to be their strong rock, their solid rock? And that's not true. So what do you got for us?
So I wanted to start with,
Yes.
if I were to cover 4 key things tonight, the
Perfect.
first thing is to talk about, well, what is a mental illness?
Yes.
What is a mental health disorder? And the words are often used interchangeably. It depends on who you're talking to. Some people don't like the word illness, and that's the part that's stigmatizing for folks. So if we want to use a mental health disorder, that's fine. For me, it's more about people being aware and recognizing and accepting that they need help.
And being in complete wellness. Not just your body, but your mind, your soul. Everything has to be connected and everything has to be well so that you can function properly in society and in your daily lives. So mental health, that's your topic.
I want to talk a little bit about defining it.
Okay.
Because clinically, I can give you the clinical definition, and
Yes.
you read the clinical definition.
Yes.
And if you look online, lots of people will see clinical words, and that's the language of therapists. That's
And
what we
those
use.
are the scary words.
Right. But when people come into my office or they walk into a doctor's office, they don't give those words. So that's what we surmise, and we build a diagnosis off of that.
Okay.
So, but when people come into my office, they tell their story.
Right.
From their story is where I glean symptoms, I glean a context for what's going on. So sometimes people are suffering from general distress. We all are one crisis away from being in a mental health situation, right? Any of us at any time
Anybody.
could suffer
Yes.
a relationship loss, a divorce, a death, anything could throw all of us off
Instantly.
our center, right?
Yes.
It's when it's prolonged and it gets complicated and it becomes debilitating. So people who aren't able to go to work, they're calling out of
Right.
work, kids who aren't going to school, school refusal. That's when you know it's time to talk to someone and get some help.
Because there are signs that you should be watching. Either a family member, a friend, even a neighbor can be going through these things and you not notice it, but by listening to Dr. Clack and learning these things, then you can help yourself and help others. So this is a great platform today to start educating.
And our goal was the cupcakes was really sort of like a cute topic, cupcakes and conversation, obviously. Cupcakes, coffee, and conversation. And it was to get people really to buy into the idea that this doesn't have to be a bad thing to talk about. Mental health is not
devastating.
Bad. Right.
No.
There is certainly pain that
Right.
comes with struggling with a
Right.
mental health issue.
Of course.
But we wanted to open up a conversation for people to come. This was about networking, collaboration, fellowshipping for loved ones, family members of persons who are struggling with a mental health or mental illness.
And feeling comfortable, creating an environment that you feel comfortable enough that you can share your story or a story that you know, and Dr. Clack can help you with it.
Yes. So that was our plan. That
Yeah.
was our plan for today.
Yeah.
That was the idea.
And it's great.
I love
It's
it.
great because we have not only the radio station here with us, that they're always accompanying us, DJ CL Smooth, Beverly Brooks, Alita Reed, Pamela Knight, Judah Priest, and my Tange.
See what y'all missing?
I don't miss nobody. I love my crew. We have the video guy. He's not going to show himself. He always hides behind the video. Gus, he does fantastic work. He's going to take this tape and he's going to edit it, fine tune it so that we can post it and you have this information whenever you forget something, whenever you can't remember what Dr. Clack is speaking about tonight, then you can go back and see it when we post it. And so I thank you all for coming out. And of course, my daughter, she's always helping. So Dr. Clack, how do you want to start? What do you want to teach us tonight?
I want to start with symptoms.
Yes.
And helping people to recognize, well, what is mental health? Because people will say, well, I think my grandmother or my mother or my aunt, they'll identify if it has something, but I'm not sure what it is. And everything's on the internet. So if you look hard enough, you'll find something that can fit anyone you know. So you have to be careful about self-diagnosis, which is why you really want to talk to a professional. The main diagnoses that people typically show up in the office for are depression and anxiety. And all of those have different forms that fall underneath of them. And they usually come from situations, again, that create some kind of prolonged stress.
Right.
So if you're in anything too long, it can turn into a depression. If you worry for something too long, you can turn it into an anxiety disorder. So those are the two biggest things that people typically come into treatment for.
Now, do you see patients with PTSD? Because remember, we also had a nurse here that spoke about PTSD, and unfortunately you couldn't attend.
I remember I saw that.
But that was a great episode where she touched about all the symptoms and her daily struggle with PTSD, because it just didn't come from her being a vet, but it was way before, and she didn't even know about it until she came back from the Army, and then she noticed, oh my God, there's something going on. I need help. I can't continue to try to deal with it on my own. And she went and got help.
Yeah.
So do you see patients with PTSD?
I do. A lot of my work is patients with trauma.
Okay.
It's not, I've had few veterans, because veterans use usually veterans outpatient facilities.
Okay.
Because they get access to those services, and so they should use those. The trauma clients that I see are usually people who've been in abusive situations, so sexual abuse, rape or trauma, prolonged domestic violence, those kind of traumas are the folks that usually show up in my office.
Okay. And young? Do you have any young
yes.
people coming in?
As young as 12. Usually girls are who are victims of bullying. And we know of all the recent traumatic event of the young lady in Delaware.
Oh.
So that kind of prolonged bullying can turn into a social anxiety disorder where kids don't want to come out the house, they don't want to go to school. So it can get really debilitating. And those are the kids who usually don't go back to school and have to be instructed at home.
Yeah, that was the stories that have been coming out in the news are very sad, because these are teenage girls, and they're being bullied, and they're I don't know if scared to speak out or what it is, but they're not sharing what they're going through, and it gets to a point where, I mean, there was a young lady that died from being bullied, from being beat up by a group. It wasn't just one person; it was a group. And so, I don't want you to be shy about sharing your story. If you're being bullied, you have to stop it. Don't be afraid of it. Of going to your mom, to your dad, a teacher or principal. That's what they're there for. They're there to help you, to guide you, and to stop whoever it is that's bullying you. And in life, adults even get bullied.
Adults, I was going to say that. There are, and usually it's a work situation.
Exactly.
It's often a work situation that someone's being bullied. And I think that they don't tell for a lot of reasons. One is repercussions.
Right.
And two, it's embarrassing to say I'm being bullied by another adult. So they try to handle it
Especially
on
when
their
you're grown
own.
up,
Yes.
you think you can take the world upon you, and you actually can't.
Exactly.
Especially when you're at work, you have to be bullied. That also has to stop at work. Absolutely. Because, you go through the depression of now closing yourself up and not wanting to be so productive as you used to be.
Exactly.
Because now your energy is not the same, your creativity is not the same, and so you become that depression patient that comes into your office. So that's not good to do. Now, do you have little ones coming into your office?
I do not work with children under 10.
Okay.
I have. There are people who work with kids as little as 3.
Wow.
So 2 and 3. Usually 2-year-olds is a behavioral problem and it's a parenting issue. So that's more working with the family. But you
Okay.
have kids as young as 3 and 4 who are victims of sexual abuse.
Okay.
Remember, those are kids who are preverbal. They can't talk very well, so they and so there's ways to talk with them through play. So they're
Now,
in
at
therapy.
home, how do you find out?
At home, what do you mean?
At home, if a child has been either bullied or sexually assaulted, he's not going to come to tell you.
Yeah.
And that's not because of fear. It's just, he's either been threatened or she's been threatened, or he and she doesn't know how to even tell you. If they're that small and don't know how to speak, then how do they tell you?
That's actually a really good point. With adolescents and teens, you know your child. And unless you're not in tune with your kid and you don't see any differences, then that's a problem. Because I have seen kids who haven't told, and when they become adults, they will say, my mom didn't even know this about me. She couldn't even tell I stopped talking to the neighbor. She couldn't tell that I wouldn't come out of my room. Parents have to be in tune with their kids' everyday behaviors. And I know kids think that there's this violation of privacy because teenagers just kind of want to have all this secrecy.
Yeah,
But
that wasn't at my house.
No, wasn't
No.
at my house either. Wasn't no
No.
closed doors, right?
We Puerto Rican at my house. No. Ain't no privacy nowhere. Sorry, I'm coming in. And I'm
it's
checking your
true.
computer. And I'm checking your
Exactly.
notebooks.
Yes.
And I'm going in your school bag.
Yes.
And I might even creep up to the school in a black hoodie and check you out.
That's pretty bad. That's pretty bad.
But that's how I knew how to keep my children safe. Right. It wasn't a thing of controlling them, because I'm not trying to control my children. I'm trying to continuously be in their life and protect them and know beforehand what's going on. Because my daughter, my oldest daughter, she went through bullying and never told me.
Yeah.
Never told me. But she became a shell. She wasn't that energized little girl anymore. She wasn't smiling as much anymore. She wasn't sharing with her siblings. And that, to me, was a big alarm, because that's not who she is. My children are energized and spunky, and they're very outgoing, and so when I didn't see that in her, it kind of triggered me to start investigating and start looking. And I'm glad that I got to school when I did, because the bully, I actually caught her in action.
Oh, wow.
And so that, I'm sorry, my Puerto Rican temper came out. I apologize. But I didn't do anything. But I did take the girl in and report her.
Okay.
And I reported the mother, because the mother was actually standing right there.
Gotcha.
So that was not okay with me. So I went inside and I asked her, why didn't you tell me? She said, Mommy, her and her friends were always picking on me. And I said, but you didn't say anything. And she said, Mommy, but what am I going to say? You can't do anything. And that was sad to me, because they think that you can't do anything, but you can. You can go into the principal, you can go into a counselor, whatever, and get them help.
But they think it's going to make things worse.
Yes.
That's why they don't want it to help.
Yeah, because she thought, well, the principal will spark more fire, and for a little bit it did, but I continuously went to the office.
Because you stayed involved.
Yes, I don't give up like that. All my 4 children, they know, and I have a little one now, and he's my heart, and he knows I'll go to bat for him too. But that's just who I am. And I understand that not all parents are like that,
Right.
and I get it, because maybe the parents themselves have gone through that and don't know how to deal with that. But you don't have to. Maybe you can tell a teacher or someone else, and they can help you. So how about adults? Let's talk about the adults.
Okay.
The seniors.
Populations that I don't do a lot of work with are the elderly,
Oh.
geriatrics, and kids, because geriatrics are familiar with the brain. So you're working with dementia, you're working with Alzheimer's.
Got
People who like working with the geriatric population are specialized and take more of a course load in that direction. And then very young, I did that when I was very young.
Okay.
So as I kind of got older, I branched into the adolescents. That's kind of my niche. I love working with adolescents.
Why the adolescents?
I'm not sure. I just feel like I can really be myself with them. Like, we can really talk. And,
You feel you can share with them?
we can really talk. What you say, I can say. I think I feel like I know their language. I have so many nieces and nephews also.
Okay.
So having bonded with them, and I continue to, it's a natural kind of transition for me to work with young people.
Okay. So now then, the adults working. Let's go back to the adults that are working. The men that are working. Because men are shy of sharing. So how do we get the men to share? And how do we get the men to break out of that shell of they have to be Superman all the time?
Yeah. Men are difficult to get into therapy.
Do you have
Usually-
men?
I have a few.
Mm.
So what brings them in? Usually the wife, a significant other. Vocational work stress, they're mandated to come in.
Oh, okay.
And anger management.
Mhm.
Those are the things that usually will bring a man into therapy.
And they'll share.
They will share. They will. And I think once they get in there and the ice is broken, it's not what they think. I think the idea of what therapy is to some people is a very scary thing. But once you get them in there and you break the ice and you kind of join with them around the issues, it's much easier for them to kind of start to share.
Now, the men that you have coming in, are they younger or older?
Both. Usually anywhere between, I would say 17 is my youngest adolescent, up to 50, 60.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
interesting. Do you have men that have gone through either the sexual harassment, sexual assault, the bullying, any of that?
No. I have not had one man who has readily.
So they're not
openly-
open to that.
That's not been my experience.
they can share then the marriage problem. They can share maybe
Work
the
stuff.
work related, but not anything so personal and so deep.
Not something that's going to make them so vulnerable. That puts you in a very vulnerable position to talk about being sexually violated, particularly as a man. So I have not yet had a man come in and talk about that. Now, I have worked in corrections, juvenile corrections before.
Okay.
And so that's a different situation because there's documented and
Right.
violated. So then they
Right.
go into therapy. And
Right.
so they know I already know. So we can talk.
So do you work just at your office, or do you get contracted to go
Right
other
now,
places?
my primary job is at my private practice, but
Okay.
I will go in the community and do some in-home therapy. And that's a different kind of setup. That's through
Okay.
another company.
Okay.
And they have a contract to work with the state to do in-home therapy.
Okay.
And those are usually crisis. So
Mm.
this is when a kid is having a really hard time or acting out or may have engaged in some kind of self-harm or suicidal attempt. They'll call mobile crisis. Mobile crisis comes out, assesses the family, and then they will contract the family to get services ongoing through one of my agencies.
Suicide is a big topic.
Oh, yeah.
And that's like the end of, you don't find any other solution to your situation. You can't figure out who to talk to. You probably think nobody wants to hear it, and then that's the end product.
Yeah.
You get to them before that,
Yes.
and you get to help them. So you have saved many lives.
I would like to think so. I don't want to believe I have that much power.
Well, then I will share. Then I will share that through the episode that we did, Impact of Depression, which was our second episode with Dr. Clack, there were two young ladies that saw that video that Gus Conde Photography produced for us, and they sent a message saying thank you for saving their lives.
What?
Because they saw the video once I posted it, and within 5-10 minutes later, there was a message that was sent to my Facebook, and I'm not going to tell you who it was.
Sure.
Privacy, but I will say thank you on their behalf.
Awesome.
Because and that's what the world around us is about. It's about changing your mind, changing the way you think, the way you behave, one person at a time. We're not trying to impact the whole world at a time, just one person at a time. Because the information that comes to these episodes are things that you're going through daily. And we are not at your home, but you see the video, and then that information helps you to find out, where can I go, how can I get help, and what's my next step? Am I really boxed in, or can I find a solution to this? And so
awesome.
that was
Thank
so
you.
great that I didn't tell you until
You
today,
sure
because
did it.
I wanted your
She's been
I wanted
dropping
your
some
face.
serious surprise bombs on me.
I
the
wanted your
last
I
few
wanted your
days.
face to be.
Oh my gosh, that's
Yes.
awesome. But you know, when you say that, social media gets many ways, particularly when it comes to advocacy, awareness, and education. This is a powerful medium. A month ago,
Especially if you bring the right people.
Exactly, and it's responsible.
Yes.
And you're very responsible.
Yes.
So a month ago, one of my colleagues, and I think she's in Alabama, and she runs also a mental health organization. And one day she just wrote a post that says, "I'm checking in, how's everybody doing?" This was to the general public, how's everybody doing? And a couple people said, "Okay, having a hard day." And my response was, "Can I pray for anybody today?" And what got flashed up on the screen was a picture of someone who had self-injured right there in that moment. So immediately we all got activated, only to find out she was closer to me than I thought.
Wow.
And I did not stop. I contacted her via social media,
Nice.
so she never gave any privacy, and I never asked her for anything.
Okay.
To this day, I'm in touch with her. And I
Amen.
hooked her up with an agency near where she lives at, and she started her treatment.
Excellent.
But that's how powerful social media can be.
Mhm.
When you just don't know what people are going through until you ask, "What don't I see?"
Yes.
You have to ask, "What don't I see? Something's different. What don't I see?"
Yes.
And then say, "What can I do to help you?"
Absolutely. And it's about what you're posting, because your words have power, and they have power to either destroy or build.
Yes.
And so you have to be very careful what you're saying at all times, and what you're posting is very important, because someone can be so depressed and you post something that's not inspiring, you're sending that person on another spiral.
Yes.
Instead of helping them get out of that, now they're going the other way. So I try to stay as positive as I can on my Facebook. Every once in a while, I'll do the crying, And then she'll save me, because she'll send a message, and my crew will also send a message. So I thank all of you, and we're gonna take a break so that you can all have those cupcakes, coffee, and tea. But we're going to give you some music so that you can enjoy yourselves.
WBNC has a great lineup. We start with the Breakfast Club, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Our live shows start at 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That's the CL Smooth and Bev Brooks Show, with our co-hosts Ngozi at Night and Sexy Taz. We have the Basement every Tuesday, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m. with comedian hosts Raul Gomez, Hez Green, Sonny Black, and The Enforcer. We have spinning all the way live from Syracuse, New York, DJ Latin Man, doing Throwback Thursdays, broadcasting alongside WLAT Fire FM. You can catch us on TuneIn.com radio app. Search WBNC and also call into the station. Drop us a line at 267-713-WBNC. And keep it live. This is Tange Millions, keeping you in tune with the hottest DJs, radio hosts, and comedians, with great music, hot topics, and a whole lot of fun. Stay tuned, y'all.
To the world around us. And I'm your host, Beatriz Caraballo, and we're here with Dr. Angela Clack. We have been speaking about mental health and celebrating mental health, because we want all of you to be aware of what's going on within yourself, so that you can become well, so you can become whole, so you can help someone else become well and whole as well, and also go out in the community and help others. Dr. Clack, we have someone in the audience that works with domestic violence.
Okay.
And she is Michelle Matthews from United Against Domestic Violence.
Okay.
And I want to thank you for coming, and I want to welcome you to return. And if you have any questions, concerns, comments, a story, if you want to connect and start working together, we always open the doors for that. And you are very welcome here at the World Around Us.
Thank you.
We also have Beth Stevenson in the audience, and she will be, I was informed she's going to start classes, college classes. So she's going to be learning all your things, all those little knickknacks that you do, all that magic you share. She's going to be sharing it soon as well.
Congratulations. Thank you.
And so, and we have a very special one that we have to introduce, and we have to bring him up here, though.
Okay.
Because I like him up here near me.
Okay.
All right. Near me. So, Mayor, come on up. Mayor Andre Daniels from West Hampton.
Good evening. How's everyone? Good.
Welcome. Good seeing you again.
Thank you.
I loved having him. We did a racism and hatred, and it was so powerful and so intense, and we loved it. And we're going to do a part 2. And Mayor Daniels, we hope to come to your town and do it.
Please, by all means, the offer is open. Looking forward to it. Maybe as soon as May 28th.
Oh, wow.
2 days.
Yeah, see? It's magic dust.
Absolutely. Never too shy to take a plug. But look, ladies, I just wanted to thank you both. It's truly, truly, truly through the empowerment of others that anybody rises and shine. Remember, even a rapper, Ludacris, says that when each of us move, we all move.
Yes.
Just like that.
Yes.
So I'm really happy to be here today, and every opportunity that I get to lift you ladies up and to be part of the forward progress that you're making, please call on me.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. has been supportive even way before I started this whole thing, this whole crazy project. He was the craziness behind my craziness. And I loved it because every time I threw an idea to him, he was like, well, maybe, how about if you do it this way? So he tweaked, and I tweaked, and we got it. So thank you, Mayor Daniels. Thank you.
Absolutely.
We also have another young lady that came. She'll be back, but her daughter, as you remember at our second episode, she sent some questions, and she sent questions again.
Oh, okay.
So I want to share these questions with you, and then we'll open up to the audience. And whoever has a question, a comment, a story, anything for Dr. Clack, so they could connect with you.
All right.
What is your advice to a woman around 24, 25, transitioning into that womanhood stage?
Okay. What is my advice? I have a mentee. Oh, that's good because I have a mentee who's 24. We're just starting to build our relationship, and I think one advice I would give to them is to find someone that they can connect with as a mentor, as a female mentor. And I'll say that we often look for people that are stars. We're looking for Oprahs. We're looking for all these people to be mentors because we aspire to be like them. But there are so many powerful and successful women right in our own communities. Yes. We just got to tap into that, and they just have to kind of talk to someone who knows someone. That's how my mentee found me, right? So she's seen me around, and she says, "I like what you do. Can I connect with you?" I don't say no. So yes, absolutely. So one piece of advice is to find a very healthy, a very accessible woman who can guide and direct them in terms of making decisions and what to expect in terms of being a 20-something-year-old.
Yeah, 24, 25. And especially if they're in college, going through the classes, it gets stressful.
Yes.
Some might even get a little bit on the depression because of all the stress that they're going through.
It's an adjustment.
Yes, it's a big lifestyle adjustment. And so don't get into your shells. Don't get all departed from everybody else, and just reach out for someone. When were you comfortable in your own skin? And I like that question in so many levels.
I do too. Because it requires that the person who answered to be very transparent and authentic. Because for me, and I think for almost every woman that's connected to me, that's a 40-something milestone. A 40 years.
I'm 46. It just hit me.
See? Exactly. It's, when you're in your adolescent stage, it's all about you. When you're in your 20s, you think everybody's thinking about you. When you're in your 30s, you're just coming into your own. It's when you're 40 when you say, forget all of that. Now it's about, I'm kind of moving into my own. So 40 seems to be a pivotal age for women. For men, I'm not so sure. I can't speak to that so much. So, but I can speak.
I don't want to put my crew on spot, but I'll ask them later. We all go through a depression stage. When was yours, and how did you overcome?
Wow. Okay.
Now it's personal, huh?
It is personal. There are two life events. One was the passing of my father. I was fortunate enough to have my father most of my life. So I was in my 30s when he passed. So I'm meeting young kids who are losing parents very much earlier than that. So I was fortunate to have 30 years with my father. But nonetheless, he was such a significant part of my life. So when he left, my life changed. So that was hard. The other time was in graduate school, and this is that question that goes back to that 24, 25-year-old if they're in college.
Okay.
And that came as a result of just being very overwhelmed. Because we can, as women, we'll push and work until we burn ourselves out because of that kind of strong black woman, superwoman, whatever you want to call it, that we think that we can keep going until we don't realize that our body is slowly breaking down.
Yeah.
And if you're not paying attention to it, you can get very sick.
Yes.
And that can turn into a depression.
Yes. And I'll share that for many years, I went through it. I went through the depression. And you really... You think that no one is there for you, and you really believe that you are standing very alone with no help from anyone. And I didn't have the supportive extended family, not my children and my husband, but the extended family, because of whatever their reason was. You know, you have to be the sanabria, you have to be this really well-formed, put-together woman. Stop crying, stop feeling this way, stop doing. And being the baby of 15, and they're all men, only one other sister, then you're raised that you have to be as tough as the boys. And when I went through it, it was very lonely. It was very strange, and I didn't know who to talk to. So I became this boxed in person, and I had to reach out. And finally, through my kids, you know, my kids have been my anchor. I gotta give thanks to all four of them. They have been my anchor. They have been my strength. They have been the wind that continues to help me fly. Because when I think I'm breaking down, I look at them, and all of a sudden, I'm better again.
Yeah.
It's like this new energy or something. And even now that they're grown, my daughter Crystal, you know, she's always with us, and she knows when mommy's getting sad. And she'll come over, she'll say something silly, and there I go again, I'm happy again, and there I go with my energy again. So we all go through it. It's not to be embarrassing. For years I was embarrassed. I will admit. For years, you know, the Puerto Rican in me did not want to, correct, Beth? Yes. The Puerto Rican in me, you know, temper, stubborn, the whole 9 yards. I didn't want to share, and I wanted to be the strong person. And it was embarrassing. I felt embarrassed to even feel that way. But you don't have to feel that way. You don't. Trust me, don't. Just go get help. Go sit down with someone that can give you guidance, that can tell you what the next step is.
And this is exactly why this event tonight, because I don't think that people understand my passion for this. Probably 10 to 15 people that come into my office are women or minority women, are depressed. And I mean, these women are clinically depressed.
Yeah.
And to sit
Unbalanced
with them
completely.
Yeah, and
Yes.
to sit with them through their pain, for me, I feel blessed in many ways that they're allowing me into their journey. On the other hand, I feel very helpless sometimes, because this is depression is a journey. It takes some time, and so
Yes.
they want wellness quick, and sometimes it doesn't happen that way.
And
But
sometimes you
it's
got to
serious.
dredge things that will take you even deeper before you can get
That's
higher.
exact. And I tell people it could get worse before it gets better. Stick with the process.
But stick with it because it works.
Yes.
It works. You can break out of that bondage.
Yes.
I did it. I'm not going to say that, I'm just splendid every day.
Yeah.
No, I'm not splendid. Beatriz has to put makeup and all that stuff and the hair, the pretty stuff. Yeah, no. You have to work at it every day.
Yes.
You have to work. It's putting your words into action. It's putting her words into your life actions. And that's how you get empowered and educated and get out of your bondage. Because it's a bondage.
Yes, it is.
And it stops
It's
you
fear.
completely
It's fear. Fear is a bond.
from moving forward with the things that you are destined to do, the things that you have been created to do, as we spoke. We are all created and touched.
Last Saturday or the Saturday before. And one of the things I do want to talk about is the faith community. And talk about how the church or whatever religious organization or building, the mosque, whatever people use. I want to be fair, but I'm going to speak about the church because that's kind of where I'm coming from. Last Saturday, they did an event about mental health. There are more churches, and I'm so glad that they're getting on board with opening the dialogue. However, there are very few that are still stigmatizing mental health in the church. And it's very irresponsible to tell someone struggling with depression that they don't need to take the medication, they just need to pray.
Oh, that's bad.
Because people put their pastors on pedestals
Yes.
Sometimes over doctor's advice.
Yes.
And they will take what they say and do that.
Yes. And not your advice.
And not the doctor's advice. So
right.
it's very dangerous to do that. If you're not a trained professional, some pastors are trained on some level. Mm-hmm. Many will refer. And I get pastors to refer all the time.
Oh, great.
Because they understand and they check out my background. So they know where they're sending. Okay. They're sending their parishioners and their members to. But it's irresponsible to tell them to do something you're not trained to assess or diagnose. Mm-hmm. And it's happening all the time. I just read a post someone wrote last week, and she was saying in her post that she was being told as a lack of faith. You don't have enough faith. You're not praying enough. You don't understand the level of joy. All of that is what sustains you, but it's not what created that.
Right.
So to say that only Father says to them, "You're failure. You're not doing it right. It's your fault," and that just further it will push them away from the church, which is what we don't want.
Yes.
And it will also push them further into that mental health issue. So that's
my
message to the faith community. Absolutely. Is to open up the dialogue. If you don't know, bring people in. Open up your church on a Saturday or one during the week and do this. Do a Q&A. You know, be very responsible for you're telling someone not to do something against medical ethics.
Absolutely. I know that the young lady that did the cupcakes for us today, she actually created a very unique cupcake. It's very beautiful with the green ribbon and everything for mental health. She and I had attended the same church for a while, and that was one of the things that pushed me out, made me walk out of church, because they were saying that, well, you don't pray enough. You just need to have your life saved. But I had given my life to the Lord years ago. What are you talking about? Well, you're not really a Christian. Wow. And I was like, that's not really helpful. What are you saying? And that's the things that they were saying to others. Okay. Instead of just bringing them in, listening to the story, and then either helping them or, like you said, referring them to a professional. That's not what they were doing. And so she now has a group at the church where they have gotten it's almost like a class where they get counseling classes so that they can teach and do counseling in the church, because she didn't like that a lot of people were leaving. And she said, we're losing our flock. Yes. And we're supposed to be helping and saving, and we're not, because they're leaving. Yeah. So we're doing something wrong. What is it? And that was one. That was just one of the other problems that they were facing. Now that the young lady is here, I know she's eating. We're not gonna. But Michelle, we are talking about Turquoise Wilson, because Turquoise Wilson and her group, Underground Queens, had submitted questions for the doctor. And so I'm reading the questions for her so that she knows. How does a woman overcome disillusion and the shame of incapability of being fruitful in life?
Okay. Define fruitful for me.
Fruitful in being successful.
Oh, okay. Not like infertility or anything.
No.
Okay. Because that is something that can create depression as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, fruitful. So not feeling like they're living out their purpose or reaching goals.
Right.
Okay. How do they get over it?
How do they overcome the disillusion?
Disillusion. Okay. Oh, that's tough. It's tough because I'm not sure if I'm answering what their intended question. Because is the disillusionment meaning I have these big grand dreams that...
Well, a lot of us sometimes set goals too big. And we don't want to see that they're too big. We don't want to really realize that at this moment in time, maybe, in the future, but at this moment in time, you can only reach here.
Okay.
So that becomes, at least to some, a disillusion, like, oh my God, can I even do this? Am I even capable of doing this?
Okay.
Am I, a real person? Am I whole? What's wrong with me? Why can't I even achieve this first step? What's going on?
Well, maybe the goal just needs to be broken down. Maybe the disillusionment is that it's a huge goal it's a big dream, one that one can achieve, but maybe they're trying to achieve it all at once instead of breaking it down and being very patient with the process. Maybe that's what it is. Is to break it down and then to find some resources to help her to reach those goals and get some guidance.
Do you believe depression can stem from our day-to-day habits?
Yes. Bad health, lack of exercise,
the way we eat,
toxic relationships. Absolutely.
Yes.
Bad habits can create depression because we are feeding our spirit with things that weren't meant to be there. So if we're taking in things that are not fulfilling our purpose, that are only damaging our self-esteem and making us feel worse, staying in relationships way longer than we should, day-to-day interactions that are just very negative. No, if we don't, and learning to say no to some things. So we'll say yes, 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 and get overscheduled and overwhelmed, which can lead to emotional stress.
Do you believe medicine is the cure to depression always?
See, always, I like that. No, not always. That was easy.
Always.
No, not always. But medication is like this. For people that are severely depressed, I'll give this example that I learned from a psychiatrist recently. You know, he said to me, you can get to Florida by walking or driving. So if you walk, it's going to take you much longer to get there. But you can drive and get there quicker.
I'm out of pain.
Medication can get you somewhere quicker to sustain you to do the therapy. Whereas if you feel like you don't need it, but you're struggling, you can't do the work of therapy to get better. So
a lot of people are scared of the medication.
You should be on some level.
Yeah,
because you have to be careful.
There's this, well, you're going to get addicted to it, and, you know, it's not good for you, and it's going to tear up the liver or this or that, and people then won't go into the therapy, won't go into getting help because they're afraid that the first thing that the doctor's going to give them is medicine.
Which, if you go to your primary, that is the first thing they're going to do. So for me, I try to encourage people, if they need medication, to see a psychiatrist.
Okay.
Primary care physicians are trained to do what? Prescribe. They have 15 minutes. They cannot get your health history. They cannot get your backstory enough to adequately treat you with medication. Psychiatrists are different. They spend some more time with you. They may not spend as much as a psychologist because we do the talk part. But I usually partner with psychiatrists so that I can, and of course the patient gives consent. So we partner as a team. So I say, look, this is what's going on. This is what they probably need. So we help each other.
Now, what's the difference in all these terms,
That's
these titles?
Question.
Because
so
not all
a lot
of
of
us
people
know.
ask, I know.
Yes, not all of us know, and we assume, you know.
Everybody does that. So psychiatrists are medical doctors. So they go to medical school, but they're trained in psychiatry. So they're trained in the brain. They're not internal medicine. They're not cardiology. They probably do a round in that, but that is not their focus.
Okay.
Psychologists, on the other hand, we do more talk therapy and we do evaluation and we do testing, like we do schools testing or vocational assessments. The laws are starting to change a little bit because in some states psychologists are now getting prescription privileges, which means if I wanted to, I do not. If I wanted to, I would have to go back and do a respecialization, get licensed in that, and then I could prescribe.
Gotcha.
Again, I do not want to, but there are some who feel like, I'm not going to do that. I feel like people should stay in their lane. If I wanted to do that, I would have become a psychiatrist, and that's not what I want. So.
Okay. And psychotherapists?
So psychotherapists are people at a master's level who do talk therapy as well. They just don't have the doctoral training. So everybody's a psychotherapist as a talk therapist. Everybody can be a mental health clinician. It's just that it's what degree you got once you got out of your graduate program. It's what you did after your 4-year degree.
And counselors?
Okay, so counselors are pretty much, it's more like a lay term, so anybody can be a counselor that's doing entry-level positions where maybe you're working with youth or you're doing some vocational counseling or maybe some substance abuse. Most of them are certified in addictions, but some do some lay stuff. So counselors are probably can be bachelor's level people, so they don't even have to be licensed. But they use the word counselors very loosely.
Okay. I tell everyone to be strong, knowing that I am the weakest person in the world.
Okay.
That was a comment from one of the groups.
Can you repeat that again?
I tell everyone to be strong, knowing that I am the weakest person in the world.
So the other way that I hear that is that there are very successful women who look like they have it all together, and all of their friends see them as having it all together. And when they tell their friends, I'm struggling, people say, you? But no, not you. You got it all together. But they don't know that that person doesn't, because they wear a mask every day that makes it look like they have it together. So that's what that reminds me of.
That's exactly what it reminded me. I said, ooh, masquerade.
Yeah.
Yes. It's concern, story, anything that you want to share. And we do have Michelle that wants to come up and share a question. Yes, ma'am.
Where do you want me to stand?
Right back here.
Hi, ladies.
Hello.
My question is, how does PST, post-traumatic stress disorder, affect a victim and survivor of domestic violence?
Victim. Okay. So I'm going to repeat the question. So she's asking, how does PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, affect the victim and the survivor? Can you identify who the survivor is?
I would say myself.
Okay. Survivor meaning.
Okay, so let me elaborate.
There you go. Thanks.
So when I say victim, I think when you come from victim to survivor. So as a survivor of domestic violence, sometimes I know that when I went through counseling and therapy, they never told me or elaborated about post-traumatic stress disorder. So after the abuse, you then in turn deal with the post-traumatic stress disorder. And I don't think people are really prepared for that and what it looks like and how it feels.
Okay. Excellent. I get it. Okay. I think one of the things that people should be aware of is that post-traumatic, what it is, or what post-traumatic stress. So traditionally, post-traumatic stress has always been connected to the soldiers who return from war. So we're talking about Vietnam veterans who are coming back after seeing the atrocities. So if you watch any kind of movies where they show all the killing and all the kind of things that they were exposed to, and things that we don't even know. You know, I have worked with some, and they're saying they will say there's just things that I can't even talk about. And so what happens is that when they return to normalcy or return to back to civilian life, the trauma from those experiences continue to intrude in their thought life. So for domestic violence victims or victims, even people who suffer sexual trauma, rape or abuse, what will happen is, although they're no longer in the situation, is that much of the residual effects are still impacting them. So it could be night terrors, nightmares.
Reliving
they're reliving it. Or they could just be sitting somewhere and you'll see people do like that. That's a startle reaction from always having to kind of be on point or charts, because the victims were never sure when the violence was going to happen. So it could be unpredictable. So they're always on their guard. They're very vigilant. So it definitely impacts the victim because they are reliving the trauma when it gets triggered by something. And sometimes I see this in women who get into new healthy relationships, and some of the baggage and some of the trauma from the old relationship begin to interfere with that relationship. So even though they're in a much better place or out of that threatening environment, there's still some therapy issues that have to be addressed. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you for
Those are
sharing.
excellent questions.
Thank you for sharing. Yes, Miss Pamela?
Say, to follow a little bit behind her, if she had children and they were witness to this, but they weren't actually abused, could they also have some kind of PTSD with respect to that? And can that be passed on generationally? Say, my ultimate question is, say from descendants of slaves, would they have a residual effect with that behavior, or if it's left untreated, or even when it's treated? Could it possibly be that there is a post-traumatic stress disorder overall, or I don't know, maybe it would be another term for what you inherit?
Okay, tell me your name again.
Pamela.
Pam, that was a big question.
I know.
Okay.
Sorry.
You threw a little bit of everything in there. Would you answer this and answer that? Okay, let me start with the first part to piggyback off of the domestic violence. So you do not have to be the direct, the victim who's directly impacted. Yes, we can witness violence and trauma and still have the effects of post-traumatic stress. So if we're kids and we're watching the constant beating on our mother by our father or vice versa, however it is, yes, kids can get traumatized by being exposed to it. And so yes, they will start to internalize or externalize some of the fear, some of the unpredictability, the violence, the sadness that they see in their parents. Yes, they definitely are impacted by that. There is a book, and we talked about this, so maybe when you guys do part 2, invite Pam, right? Pam. Because the subject was on racism and post-traumatic. There is a book by Dr. Joy, her last name is, it'll come to me. It's called Post-Traumatic Stress Slave Syndrome. Okay. And she talks about historical, wait a minute, where's Mayor Andre? Mayor Andre knows. Yes, because he was at that show, and we talked about the intergenerational transmission of trauma through slavery. So yes, that is a real topic and issue, and there's lots of research out there on it.
Oh, you're going to make me go to Kill SSI now for PTSD.
Oh, Lord! I just answered the question, y'all.
Started something now.
She wants her, what is it, 100 acres and a mule? I don't
Give me 2 acres and a mule.
You're welcome.
You are a hot mess, man. Hot
You have
mess.
to ask these questions.
Yes.
Someone thought enough of it to make a book.
Exactly. We do have another question from
Okay.
an audience. What can be done to help someone who has self-sabotaging personality?
Okay. I don't know who asked that question. Is a person willing to? Oh, okay. Can you describe what you mean by
Raises her hand, but it will not come up.
right? But she's not on camera. Can you say a little bit more about what do you mean by personality, the self-sabotaging personality?
Sure. A personality that the self-sabotaging personality is one of a person who is very depressed at one moment, but very optimistic and outgoing on another moment. But they talk themselves out of different opportunities
Okay.
because of the depression and other bipolar and other issues that they may have going on.
Okay. So your question was what can be done?
What can be done to help someone who has
Okay.
a self-sabotaging
So
personality?
self-sabotaging is a behavior that people will engage in out of fear that they won't be successful. Fear that I won't make a goal, I won't reach my goal, fear that this relationship's not going to work out because I came out of several that haven't worked out. And so I almost set myself up for another failure because that's where I'm comfortable with, that's what I'm familiar with. To do anything outside of that is me taking a risk and being vulnerable. The biggest thing to do is they have to be aware that they're doing it. So in therapy, I help people identify, some people don't know that's self-sabotage.
Okay.
They may not have that name for it. So the first thing is to help people be aware that this is what they're doing, and then what is it that they're doing it for? So what's the gain from self-sabotaging? And usually, again, it's fear. It's fear is almost under everything, and that's a fear-based mindset. So again, everything for mental health also comes to the mindset, because we can talk ourselves through things and talk ourselves into things. So, but I think it's very fear-based when people engage in self-sabotage.
How serious is depression?
Oh, it's very serious. The rates about 19 million.
Yes.
1 in 5 people
Yes.
will experience some kind of mental health issue in a lifetime. So 1 in 5, that's a big number.
That's a big
number. It's very serious.
How can you tell when someone's going through depression?
How can you tell?
So how do I tell if my child is going through it, my husband, my sister, my brother? How do I tell? Signs, are there signs
Okay.
so that I can help?
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to say how can you tell you just walking up to people and being like, I think they look depressed. I don't want to do that. So what are you looking for? Because you're looking for changes from who they were. So someone who once enjoyed life and went out often, was very social, enjoyed crafts or hobbies or sports, all of a sudden stops doing those things, or gradually stops doing those things. They lose interest in things that they once enjoyed. They start to withdraw and isolate. You notice they're more quiet than they used to be. Those are the beginning signs enough to start to ask questions. And then, of course, more paralyzing effects are people who can't get up out of bed in the morning. They're struggling to get to work. They don't take phone calls. You're calling and checking on them. They don't want to talk. Those are more debilitating signs.
Miss Beverly Brooks.
Neurological mental depression, meaning that you're going through, like I suffer from migraines. It's ability, just straight shuts me down. So when you get depressed, with the mental of you constantly been on medications that haven't been helping, what do you do after that?
Okay. So there are times, and there is a word for it, sometimes the treatment is making you sick. So for example, if you're taking, for example, people who are cancer, have a cancer diagnosis, and they're going through radiation and other kinds of forms of treatment, sometimes that treatment makes them sick, which can create an emotional illness that wasn't there before they got the diagnosis. Chronic illnesses like migraines, I'm trying to think of other illnesses that are like migraines, IBS, constant stomach stuff. Sometimes the medication you take can create enough distress that creates an emotional illness. It's a toss-up. Do I stop taking the medication? Do I stop going through the treatment because it's making me depressed? Or do I figure out how to deal with the depression because the medication is keeping my migraines at bay? It's sometimes a choice that people have to make. You take the good with the bad. It's what you can endure. And some people have a high tolerance for pain, and they do it as long as they can, but after a time it can wear you down.
Great question.
The other thing is about
chronic pain.
Chronic pain is about support too, because sometimes our family members don't really think we're in that much pain, and we really are. And they will minimize it or become very indifferent over time because it's a chronic illness, and they'll say, "Well, you've been going through this for 5 years." But that's what chronicity is.
But you are going through it, and you need support, and you need someone like Dr. Clack that can walk you through those things.
Well, you know what I learned from a client that came to see me maybe a couple months ago, and she came with a diagnosis of lupus. And I thought to myself, well, that's a medical issue. I'm not sure what I can do. And what she taught me, she says, I'm going to tell you what I want you to do. She said, I need you to help me to adjust to a new normal. Because I'm living with this now, and I'm coming from working in corporate America for many years. This illness hit me. My life has changed
Drastically and overnight.
So I learned something from her, that even though sometimes people present with an illness that I'm not trained, I'm not a medical doctor, there's always an emotional component that I can help
It is. There always is. Pamela?
Can you give me just an overall idea of how you helped her find that new norm? What kind of techniques, any ideas, little...
I think one of the biggest things we had to work on is that she can no longer work at the pace that she did. She was a woman who was athletic and liked to work out. She couldn't do that anymore. It was accepting that her body can't do the things that it used to, and to gradually build things back in with the doctor's permission. That this once very successful upper management executive now isn't working at all, or she's working an hour or two a day. And I had to get her used to take the hour. They're holding your job. You haven't lost your job. So your new normal is that I can't do all the things that I used to do, and although they're asking me to do it, I have to say no, because she would take on things she's not supposed to.
And so how did she do well with it?
She did do well. She has done well. And again, she accepted that I can't push myself, because if I do, I made myself sicker. So I'm prolonging my recovery. That's what I had to get her to understand. You're prolonging getting back into what you want.
And you have to change your mindset.
Yes.
You have to change your mindset. The way you think.
She was. She was open because she came to therapy looking for it. So her expectations were already that whatever we decide to work on, that's what I'm going to do. It didn't mean it was easy for her, you know, but she came like she was supposed to, and she did the work. She did the work.
And I have something that I want you to touch on that's important.
Okay.
Because you said about Alzheimer's and dementia. And I know that you can't deal with them, but the caregivers, the family members that are the caregivers, that creates all this mental instability.
That's really hard, particularly for younger people, because they're still trying to build and live their life, and they're taking care of an aging parent who requires a lot from them.
Right.
And I have worked with caregivers who are depressed because they've had to stop their life. They had dreams of this career or traveling, and they now have to take care. And they don't, and they're very clear. This is not a burden. They do not see it as a burden.
Right.
It's just physically and emotionally taxing.
Right.
And so they need a lot of support. There are caregiver support groups. There are day programs.
Okay.
There's programs out. There's stuff out there. You might have to do a little digging.
Yeah.
But there's stuff out there. There's respite care sometimes.
Okay.
So if you want to go away for a weekend, the problem is getting your loved one to those places. They will fight you because remember they're not themselves.
Right.
So and the guilt that caregiver has that I want to get away. I need to get away, but that means I have to put her or him in this place for a weekend.
Right.
And
that's hard to do sometimes. That's
really,
hard to do. I understand.
Struggles. But if they don't take care of themselves,
yes,
then they can't be a caregiver to their loved one.
Yes. First, always take care of yourself so that you can, in turn, help someone else. Because if you're not well, you can't make someone else well.
Absolutely.
And I have been blessed to have this family here, the radio team, the camera, my daughter, my children. They have just been excellent, and I have had that support. And I say that because I'm the one that goes through the fibromyalgia and the MS. And so you see me one day and I'm Superwoman, and I have the smile, the makeup, and all that. And then there's the day that Beatriz doesn't get up. Beatriz has to walk with a cane, and it's chronic pain that is constant. You can control it, but then as Dr. Clack says, it's your mindset. You have to change your lifestyle. You have to change the way you think. And so I have to thank all of you for always being there, and even Mayor Daniels and my cousin Betsy, that I have been able to create this support system, and where I have been able to still remain a little Superwoman, just a little.
It's in all of us.
All thanks to all of you as well out there on Facebook and on Twitter and on all our social media, on WBNC Breaking Chains Radio 91.3. Those guys are amazing, and they have such a big audience, over 75,000 listeners. Over 75,000 listeners. It's not a small online radio station. It's a big broadcasting radio station. And they have a lot of listeners, and all those listeners have become my supporters. And so I love you all. I love you all. So thank you for coming today. And we have these red noses, which we're going to take a picture after. You're not going to see it, but you will see it on Facebook, I promise. And you will see the edited version of this video once our professional Gus Conde finishes all the editing and all the fine-tuning, because he's into details. So once all that is done, we'll post it, and you'll be able to see Dr. Clack over and over again. And stay tuned, because we're coming to a town near you, maybe.
Yeah.